In this captivating video, we delve into the enigmatic world of personal paranormal experiences, where the boundaries of reality blur and the extraordinary becomes a part of everyday life. From ghostly encounters to inexplicable phenomena, the stories shared here are not just tales of the unknown. They are intimate glimpses into the lives of individuals who have faced the inexplicable. Each narrative unfolds a unique perspective on the supernatural, inviting viewers to ponder the mysteries that lie beyond our understanding. As we explore these experiences, we will hear from people who have encountered apparitions in their homes, felt the presence of unseen entities, and witnessed events that defy logical explanation. These accounts are not merely anecdotal. They resonate with a sense of authenticity that challenges our perceptions of reality. The tone of the video is designed to be both engaging and thought-provoking, encouraging viewers to reflect on their own beliefs about the paranormal. We aim to create an atmosphere of curiosity and wonder, prompting questions about what lies beyond the veil of the known. The stories shared are not just about fear or the thrill of the unknown. They also touch on themes of connection, loss, and the search for meaning in experiences that seem to transcend the ordinary. As we navigate through these personal accounts, we invite you to consider the implications of these encounters. What do they reveal about the nature of existence? Are there forces at play that we cannot see or comprehend? The intrigue of the supernatural lies in its ability to evoke a sense of wonder and mystery, compelling us to explore the uncharted territories of our understanding. By highlighting the profound impact these experiences have had on individuals, we aim to spark a dialogue about the nature of reality itself. Are we alone in our experiences, or do they connect us to something greater? The video encourages viewers to engage with these questions, fostering a sense of community among those who have encountered the inexplicable. As we share these personal stories, we hope to create a space where viewers feel comfortable reflecting on their own experiences and beliefs. The allure of the paranormal is not just in the fear it can evoke, but in the connections it can forge between people. Each story serves as a reminder that we are not alone in our encounters with the unknown. Many have walked similar paths, grappling with the same questions and uncertainties. The video aims to celebrate these shared experiences, inviting viewers to join in a collective exploration of the supernatural. As we embark on this journey together, we encourage you to keep an open mind and allow yourself to be drawn into the mystery of the unknown. The personal paranormal experiences shared in this video are not just stories. They are windows into the human experience, revealing our deepest fears, hopes, and desires. They challenge us to confront the mysteries that lie beyond our comprehension and to embrace the possibility that there is more to our existence than meets the eye. So, sit back, relax, and prepare to be intrigued as we uncover the fascinating world of personal paranormal experiences. Whether you are a skeptic or a believer, there is something here for everyone. The stories we share will not only entertain but also provoke thought and inspire curiosity about the supernatural. Join us as we explore the unknown, and perhaps you may find yourself questioning the very fabric of reality. The journey into the paranormal is one filled with wonder, and we invite you to take this journey with us as we unravel the mysteries that lie just beyond our understanding. In the years 2009 and 2010, I found myself grappling with a series of unsettling encounters with sleep paralysis that left a profound mark on my psyche. Living in Michigan during this time, I often experienced the terrifying sensation of being awake yet unable to move, trapped in my own body. Each episode began with a familiar feeling of heaviness settling over me, as if an unseen weight pressed down on my chest. My heart would race, and a sense of dread would wash over me, amplifying the fear that gripped my mind. I could see my surroundings clearly, yet I was completely immobilized, unable to call out for help or even shift my gaze. This helplessness was compounded by the eerie stillness of the room, which felt charged with an unsettling energy that heightened my anxiety. As I lay there, paralyzed, I often felt the presence of something sinister lurking nearby. Shadows would dance at the edges of my vision, and I could sense an oppressive force hovering just out of sight. The fear of the unknown was overwhelming, and I would often struggle against the invisible restraints that held me down, desperate to break free from this nightmarish state. In those moments, I was caught in a terrifying limbo between wakefulness and sleep, where reality and nightmare intertwined. The confusion that accompanied these experiences was profound, as I often found myself questioning whether I was truly awake or still trapped in a dream. This blurred line between sleep paralysis and out-of-body experiences added another layer of complexity to my encounters. There were times when I felt as though I was floating above my body, observing the scene from a distance. This sensation was both exhilarating and terrifying, as I grappled with the idea that I might be experiencing something beyond the confines of my physical self. The feeling of detachment was disorienting, and I often wondered if I was on the brink of a spiritual awakening or simply succumbing to the grips of my own mind. The interplay between these two states left me feeling vulnerable and confused, as I struggled to make sense of what was happening to me. Was I experiencing a genuine out-of-body experience, or was it merely a trick of my mind during the paralysis? This uncertainty only deepened my fear, as I felt caught in a cycle of dread that seemed inescapable. The emotional impact of these experiences was significant, leaving me feeling isolated and anxious. Each episode of sleep paralysis left me shaken, and I found myself dreading the prospect of sleep. The fear of encountering that suffocating sensation again loomed over me, creating a sense of apprehension that permeated my daily life. I became hyper-aware of my sleeping patterns, often avoiding sleep altogether in an attempt to escape the torment of those nights. The exhaustion that followed only compounded my anxiety, creating a vicious cycle that was difficult to break. I felt trapped in a world where sleep, a natural and necessary part of life, had transformed into a source of terror. As I navigated through these experiences, I sought solace in understanding the phenomenon of sleep paralysis. I discovered that many others had shared similar encounters, and this realization provided a sense of comfort amidst the chaos. It was reassuring to know that I was not alone in my struggles, that countless individuals had faced the same fears and confusion. However, the emotional scars remained, and I often found myself reflecting on the nature of fear and the unknown. These encounters forced me to confront my own vulnerabilities and the limits of my understanding. In retrospect, my experiences with sleep paralysis during those years in Michigan were not just episodes of fear. They were profound moments of introspection. They challenged my perceptions of reality and the boundaries of consciousness, leaving me with lingering questions about the nature of existence itself. While the fear was palpable, the journey through these encounters ultimately became a catalyst for personal growth, pushing me to explore the depths of my own psyche and the mysteries that lie beyond the veil of sleep. During my time in Yonkers, New York, I encountered a phenomenon that would haunt me for years: shadow people. These dark, elusive figures seemed to lurk in the corners of my vision, always just out of reach, yet their presence was unmistakable. It began subtly, with an unsettling feeling that I was being watched. I would often catch glimpses of movement in the periphery of my sight, only to turn and find nothing there. The sensation was chilling, as if unseen eyes were scrutinizing my every move, and it left me with an inexplicable sense of dread. The shadows felt alive, pulsating with an energy that was both intriguing and terrifying, as if they were aware of my awareness. One particularly chilling encounter stands out in my memory. It occurred during a nightmare that felt all too real. I found myself in a darkened room, the air thick with an oppressive silence. As I lay in bed, I felt that familiar weight of fear settle over me, and suddenly, I was unable to move. It was as if an unseen force had pinned me down, rendering me helpless. In that moment of paralysis, I sensed a presence looming nearby. I could feel the coldness radiating from it, and when I finally managed to turn my head, I saw it. A shadow figure standing at the foot of my bed. It was tall and indistinct, a silhouette that seemed to absorb the light around it. Its form was amorphous, shifting and swirling like smoke, and I could feel its gaze piercing through the darkness, locking onto me with an intensity that sent shivers down my spine. The encounter was surreal and terrifying. I wanted to scream, to call out for help, but my voice was trapped within me. Instead, I lay there, paralyzed by fear, as the shadow figure seemed to draw closer. It felt as though it was feeding off my terror, growing stronger with each passing second. Just when I thought I could bear it no longer, I jolted awake, drenched in sweat and gasping for breath. The experience left me shaken, and I couldn't shake the feeling that the shadow figure had left a mark on me, a lingering connection that I couldn't quite understand. As I reflected on these experiences, I began to explore the connection between the shadow people and my family history. My grandmother had often spoken of her own encounters with similar entities, recounting tales of dark figures that would visit her in the night. She described them as harbingers of change, appearing during times of turmoil or distress. Listening to her stories, I felt a strange sense of familiarity, as if the shadows were a part of my lineage, woven into the fabric of my family's narrative. It was as if these shadow figures were not just random occurrences but rather manifestations of something deeper, a connection to the past that transcended time and space. This realization added another layer of complexity to my encounters. I began to wonder if the shadow people were drawn to me because of my family's history, as if they were seeking to communicate or perhaps warn me of something. The idea that these figures could be linked to my ancestry was both fascinating and frightening. I felt a sense of responsibility to understand their presence, to uncover the mysteries that lay hidden within my family's past. Each encounter with the shadows became a quest for knowledge, a journey into the unknown that forced me to confront my fears and the legacy that had been passed down through generations. In the quiet moments of reflection, I found myself grappling with the implications of these experiences. Were the shadow people merely figments of my imagination, or were they something more? The chilling encounters left me with questions that lingered long after the shadows had faded from view. I realized that my experiences were not just about fear. They were about connection, history, and the exploration of the unseen. The shadows had become a part of my story, intertwining with my family's legacy and challenging me to delve deeper into the mysteries of existence. As I continued to navigate the complexities of these encounters, I understood that the shadows were not just entities to be feared. They were a bridge to understanding the past and the unseen forces that shape our lives. Growing up in Killeen, Texas, my childhood was marked by a series of unsettling paranormal experiences that left an indelible mark on my psyche. One particularly traumatic incident occurred at the local public pool, a place that should have been a source of joy and laughter, but instead became the backdrop for a haunting memory. It was a hot summer day, and the pool was bustling with children splashing about, their laughter echoing in the air. I remember feeling a sense of excitement as I dove into the cool water, but that joy quickly turned to terror. As I swam deeper, I suddenly felt an overwhelming sense of dread wash over me. It was as if the water had turned cold, and I could sense something lurking beneath the surface. Panic gripped me, and I kicked my legs frantically to reach the surface. Just as I broke through the water, I caught a glimpse of a shadowy figure beneath me, its form indistinct but undeniably present. I gasped for air, my heart racing, and I scrambled to the edge of the pool, desperate to escape the unseen presence that had invaded my sanctuary. The laughter of my friends faded into the background as I clung to the side, trembling and unable to articulate the fear that had taken hold of me. In the aftermath of that day, the pool became a place of anxiety rather than enjoyment. I avoided it whenever possible, haunted by the memory of that shadowy figure. The incident marked the beginning of a series of violent dreams that would plague my nights. Each dream was a vivid tapestry of chaos and fear, filled with supernatural entities that seemed to emerge from the depths of my subconscious. I would wake up in a cold sweat, my heart pounding, unable to shake the feeling that something was watching me from the shadows. These dreams were not just figments of my imagination. They felt real, as if I were being pulled into another realm where dark forces lurked just beyond my reach. The visions I experienced during these dreams were often grotesque and unsettling. I would see figures with elongated limbs and hollow eyes, their faces twisted in expressions of malice. They would reach out to me, their fingers clawing at the edges of my consciousness, and I would wake up screaming, the echoes of their presence lingering long after I had opened my eyes. The line between reality and nightmare blurred, and I found myself questioning my own sanity. Was I truly experiencing these entities, or was it all a product of my overactive imagination? The uncertainty only deepened my emotional turmoil. As the dreams continued, I struggled to cope with the emotional fallout. I felt isolated, unable to share my experiences with friends or family for fear of being dismissed or ridiculed. The weight of my fear became a burden I carried alone, and I often found myself withdrawing from social situations. I was haunted not only by the dreams but also by the fear of what lay beyond the veil of sleep. The nights became a battleground, and I dreaded the moment I would have to close my eyes and surrender to the darkness. The emotional struggles I faced were compounded by the stigma surrounding mental health in my community. I felt pressure to appear strong and composed, even as I battled the demons that plagued my mind. I often turned to art as an outlet, pouring my fears and anxieties onto the canvas in an attempt to make sense of the chaos within. Each brushstroke became a cathartic release, a way to confront the shadows that loomed over me. Yet, despite my efforts, the emotional scars remained, and I often felt like a prisoner of my own mind. In retrospect, my childhood experiences in Killeen were not just about the paranormal. They were a journey through fear, isolation, and the struggle for understanding. The traumatic incident at the pool marked the beginning of a tumultuous relationship with the supernatural, one that would shape my identity and influence my perception of reality. As I navigated the complexities of my emotions, I learned that confronting fear is not just about facing the unknown. It is about finding the strength to share our stories and seek connection in the midst of darkness. The shadows may have haunted my childhood, but they also ignited a fire within me to explore the mysteries of existence and the depths of the human experience. Throughout my life, I have encountered a series of unsettling experiences that have left me grappling with the existence of demonic entities and the nightmares that accompany them. These encounters often began with an overwhelming sensation of being pinned down, as if an unseen force had rendered me immobile. It was a feeling that transcended mere fear. It was a suffocating weight pressing down on my chest, making it difficult to breathe. In those moments, I would lie in bed, fully awake yet completely paralyzed, my heart racing as I sensed a dark presence looming nearby. The air would grow thick with an oppressive energy, and I could feel the temperature drop, sending chills racing down my spine. One particularly harrowing night, I found myself in the throes of this terrifying experience. I had just drifted off to sleep when I felt the familiar grip of paralysis take hold. My eyes darted around the room, searching for any sign of movement, but all I could see was darkness. Suddenly, I felt it, a presence hovering above me, its energy palpable and suffocating. I struggled against the invisible force, but it was as if my body was trapped in a vice. I could sense its malevolence, a dark aura that seemed to seep into my very being. In that moment, I was convinced that I was not alone. Something sinister was watching me, feeding off my fear. The psychological impact of these encounters was profound, leaving me in a constant state of anxiety and dread. I began to dread the night, fearing the inevitable return of the dark presence that had invaded my dreams. Sleep became a battleground, and I found myself avoiding it whenever possible, fearing that I would once again be subjected to the torment of being pinned down by an unseen force. The exhaustion that followed only compounded my anxiety, creating a vicious cycle that was difficult to escape. I felt trapped in a world where sleep, a natural and necessary part of life, had transformed into a source of terror. My experiences were not isolated. They extended beyond my own encounters. A close friend of mine, who had been a confidant during my struggles, shared a chilling experience that further solidified my fears. One night, while we were discussing our shared experiences with the supernatural, he suddenly went pale, his eyes wide with terror. He recounted a recent encounter where he had heard a demonic voice whispering his name in the darkness. The voice was low and guttural, filled with malice, and it sent shivers down his spine. He described how it felt as if the voice was reaching into his mind, probing his thoughts and fears, leaving him feeling violated and exposed. The fear in his voice mirrored my own, and in that moment, I realized that we were not alone in our struggles. These shared experiences deepened the psychological impact of my encounters. I felt a sense of camaraderie with my friend, but it also heightened my anxiety. The knowledge that others were experiencing similar phenomena made the darkness feel all the more real. I began to question my own sanity, wondering if I was simply imagining these encounters, or if there was something more sinister at play. The fear of being labeled as crazy loomed over me, and I found myself withdrawing from social situations, hesitant to share my experiences for fear of judgment. As the nightmares continued to plague my nights, I sought solace in understanding the nature of these encounters. I began researching the phenomenon of sleep paralysis and demonic entities, hoping to find answers that would alleviate my fears. However, the more I learned, the more I realized that these experiences were not easily explained away. The psychological toll was immense, as I grappled with the implications of what I had encountered. I often felt like I was walking a tightrope between reality and the supernatural, unsure of where one ended and the other began. In the end, my encounters with demonic entities and the nightmares that accompanied them became a defining aspect of my life. They forced me to confront my deepest fears and insecurities, challenging my understanding of reality and the unseen forces that may exist beyond our perception. While the experiences were terrifying, they also ignited a desire within me to explore the mysteries of existence and the complexities of the human mind. The darkness may have sought to pin me down, but it also propelled me on a journey of self-discovery, pushing me to seek understanding in a world filled with uncertainty. Growing up, I was surrounded by stories of the supernatural, woven into the fabric of my family history. My relatives often recounted their own encounters with paranormal activity, creating an atmosphere where the extraordinary felt almost commonplace. One particular incident from my childhood stands out vividly in my memory, a ghostly figure that I encountered one fateful evening. I was just a child, playing in the dimly lit hallway of our old family home, when I caught sight of a translucent figure standing at the end of the corridor. The figure was ethereal, dressed in what appeared to be a flowing gown, its features indistinct yet undeniably present. I remember feeling a mix of fear and curiosity as I stood frozen in place, unable to look away. The figure seemed to radiate a sense of calm, and as it slowly faded from view, I felt an inexplicable warmth wash over me, as if I had been touched by something otherworldly. This encounter was not an isolated incident. It was part of a larger tapestry of experiences that my family had shared over the years. My grandmother often spoke of her own encounters with spirits, recounting tales of loved ones who had passed but continued to watch over us. She firmly believed in the presence of guardian angels, protective entities that guided and shielded us from harm. This belief was deeply ingrained in our family, passed down through generations like a cherished heirloom. My parents would often remind me that we were never truly alone, that our guardian angels were always nearby, watching over us in times of need. This comforting notion provided a sense of security, especially during moments of uncertainty or fear. The idea of guardian angels became a source of emotional comfort for me, particularly in the wake of my ghostly encounter. Whenever I felt anxious or scared, I would close my eyes and envision my guardian angel standing beside me, a silent protector in the shadows. This visualization became a ritual of sorts, a way to ground myself in the belief that I was not alone in my experiences. The stories of my family members reinforced this belief, creating a sense of continuity between past and present. I felt a connection to those who had come before me, knowing that they too had faced the unknown and found solace in the idea of protective spirits. As I navigated the complexities of my own encounters with the supernatural, the belief in guardian angels provided a framework for understanding the inexplicable. It allowed me to view my experiences through a lens of love and protection rather than fear and isolation. The ghostly figure I had seen as a child transformed from a source of terror into a symbol of guidance, a reminder that there were forces at play beyond my comprehension. This shift in perspective was empowering, as it encouraged me to embrace the mysteries of life rather than shy away from them. The emotional comfort derived from these experiences was profound. In a world that often felt chaotic and unpredictable, the belief in guardian angels offered a sense of stability. I found solace in the idea that there were benevolent forces watching over me, guiding me through the trials and tribulations of life. This belief became a source of strength, helping me to face my fears with courage and resilience. Whenever I encountered moments of doubt or anxiety, I would remind myself of the stories shared by my family, drawing on their experiences to bolster my own sense of security. In many ways, my family's history with paranormal activity and guardian angels shaped my understanding of the world. It instilled in me a sense of wonder and curiosity about the unseen, encouraging me to explore the depths of my own experiences. The ghostly figure I encountered as a child became a pivotal moment in my life, a catalyst for my journey into the realm of the supernatural. It taught me that while fear may be a natural response to the unknown, there is also beauty and comfort to be found in the belief that we are never truly alone. Ultimately, my family's belief in guardian angels and their protective presence provided a framework for navigating the complexities of life. It allowed me to embrace the mysteries of existence, while finding comfort in the knowledge that love and protection transcend the boundaries of life and death. As I continue to explore the paranormal, I carry with me the stories of my family, the echoes of their experiences serving as a guiding light in the darkness. The belief in guardian angels remains a cornerstone of my understanding, a reminder that even in the face of the unknown, we are always watched over and never truly alone. My mother's experiences with paranormal activity in Islamabad have always been a source of fascination and intrigue for our family. Growing up in a home that seemed to pulse with unseen energy, we often found ourselves grappling with strange occurrences that defied explanation. One of the most common experiences we shared was sleep paralysis, a phenomenon that left us feeling trapped between the realms of wakefulness and dreams. My mother would often recount her own encounters, describing the suffocating weight that pressed down on her chest, rendering her unable to move or speak. She would lie there, wide awake, feeling an ominous presence hovering nearby, watching her with an intensity that sent chills down her spine. These episodes were often accompanied by strange noises that echoed through our home at night. My mother would hear whispers that seemed to drift through the air, soft yet insistent, as if someone were trying to communicate from beyond. The sounds would come and go, leaving her both curious and unnerved. On one particularly restless night, she was jolted awake by a loud crash in the kitchen. Rushing to investigate, she found nothing amiss, yet the feeling of being watched lingered in the air. It was these experiences that created an atmosphere of both fear and fascination, as we navigated the complexities of the supernatural together. One incident stands out as both humorous and eerie, encapsulating the strange duality of our experiences. My mother had been particularly stressed that week, juggling work and family responsibilities. One night, after a long day, she fell asleep on the couch while watching television. Suddenly, she was jolted awake by the sensation of someone tugging at her hair. Startled, she shot up, her heart racing, and in a moment of sheer panic, she yelled, "Whoever you are, just stop it. I'm too tired for this nonsense." The outburst echoed through the living room, and for a brief moment, there was silence. Then, as if in response, a light flickered above her, and she burst into laughter, realizing how absurd the situation was. It was a moment that perfectly captured the eerie yet humorous nature of our encounters with the supernatural. Culturally, the context of paranormal beliefs in Pakistan is rich and complex. Growing up in a society steeped in folklore and tradition, my family was no stranger to the tales of jinn, spirits, and other supernatural entities that are woven into the fabric of our culture. In Pakistan, it is common to hear stories of encounters with jinn, mischievous beings that can be both benevolent and malevolent. My mother often spoke of how these beliefs were passed down through generations, shaping our understanding of the unseen world. The stories of our ancestors served as cautionary tales, warning us of the potential dangers that lurked in the shadows. In our household, these cultural beliefs provided a framework for interpreting our experiences. My mother would often remind us that the strange noises and sleep paralysis were not to be feared, but rather acknowledged as part of a larger tapestry of existence. She believed that the presence of spirits could be a sign of protection or guidance, a notion that brought her comfort during her most unsettling moments. This perspective allowed us to approach our encounters with a sense of curiosity rather than dread, fostering an environment where we could explore the mysteries of the supernatural together. The emotional impact of these experiences on my mother was profound. While the encounters often left her feeling unsettled, they also ignited a sense of wonder and connection to something greater than herself. She would often reflect on the nature of existence, pondering the thin veil that separates our world from the unseen. In sharing her stories with us, she instilled a sense of resilience and curiosity, encouraging us to embrace the unknown rather than shy away from it. As I look back on my mother's experiences with paranormal activity in Islamabad, I am reminded of the delicate balance between fear and fascination. The strange noises, sleep paralysis, and humorous outbursts became a part of our family narrative, shaping our understanding of the supernatural and our place within it. Through her encounters, my mother taught us that while the unknown can be unsettling, it is also a source of connection, wonder, and ultimately, a deeper understanding of the mysteries that surround us. In a world filled with uncertainty, her experiences served as a reminder that we are never truly alone, and that the unseen forces at play can be both protective and enlightening. Living in an apartment that was once an asylum was an experience that forever altered my perception of reality. From the moment I moved in, I could sense an unsettling energy that permeated the walls, a lingering presence that seemed to echo the troubled history of the building. The atmosphere was thick with an unshakable weight, and I often felt as though I was being watched, as if the spirits of those who had once inhabited the asylum were still lingering in the shadows. My encounters with demonic presences began almost immediately, manifesting in ways that left me both terrified and bewildered. One particularly harrowing night, I was jolted awake by a chilling sensation that swept over me. It felt as though a dark force had entered the room, wrapping around me like a suffocating shroud. I could hear faint whispers, unintelligible yet insistent, echoing in the corners of my mind. As I lay frozen in fear, I caught a glimpse of a shadowy figure standing at the foot of my bed. Its form was indistinct, but the malevolence radiating from it was palpable. I felt an overwhelming urge to scream, but my voice was trapped in my throat. Instead, I closed my eyes tightly, willing the presence to dissipate. When I finally opened them again, the figure had vanished, but the fear lingered, gnawing at my sanity. These encounters became a regular occurrence, each one more terrifying than the last. I would hear footsteps echoing in the hallways when I was alone, and doors would creak open and shut without explanation. On one occasion, I awoke to find my belongings inexplicably rearranged, as if someone had been rifling through my things while I slept. The sense of violation was profound, and I began to feel as though I was living in a haunted house, a mere tenant in a space that was not truly mine. The weight of the asylum's history pressed down on me, and I struggled to maintain my sense of self amidst the chaos. In an effort to cope with these experiences, I turned to various methods of grounding myself. I began keeping a journal, documenting each encounter in detail. Writing became a therapeutic outlet, allowing me to process my fears and confront the darkness that surrounded me. I also sought solace in the practice of meditation, using it as a tool to calm my racing heart and clear my mind. Each evening, I would sit in silence, focusing on my breath and envisioning a protective light surrounding me. This visualization became a ritual, a way to reclaim my space and assert my presence in the apartment. However, the most significant source of strength during this tumultuous time was my faith. Growing up in a household that emphasized the importance of spirituality, I found comfort in prayer and the belief that I was not alone in my struggles. I would often recite affirmations and prayers, invoking a sense of divine protection against the malevolent forces that seemed to haunt me. The act of reaching out to a higher power provided a sense of reassurance, reminding me that I had the ability to confront my fears head-on. As I navigated the complexities of living in a former asylum, my faith became a beacon of hope. It allowed me to reframe my experiences, transforming fear into resilience. I began to view the demonic presences not as insurmountable obstacles but as challenges to be faced with courage and determination. Each encounter became an opportunity for growth, a chance to deepen my understanding of the unseen forces at play in my life. Over time, I learned to embrace the uncertainty that came with living in such a charged environment. The whispers and shadows became less intimidating as I cultivated a sense of agency over my own space. I realized that while the apartment held echoes of its past, I had the power to shape my own narrative. My faith served as a protective shield, allowing me to confront the darkness with a sense of purpose and strength. In retrospect, my experiences living in an apartment that was once an asylum were transformative. They challenged me to confront my deepest fears and to seek solace in the power of faith. The terrifying encounters with demonic presences ultimately became a catalyst for personal growth, teaching me that even in the face of darkness, there is light to be found. Through journaling, meditation, and prayer, I discovered the resilience within myself, proving that fear can be overcome and that the spirit can endure, even in the most haunted of places. My life-changing experience in the Manson Caves began on a crisp autumn afternoon, when the air was thick with the scent of damp earth and decaying leaves. A group of friends and I had decided to explore the caves, drawn by tales of their eerie beauty and the legends that surrounded them. As we approached the entrance, a sense of foreboding washed over me, but curiosity propelled me forward. The mouth of the cave loomed before us, dark and inviting, as if it were a portal to another world. Once inside, the atmosphere shifted dramatically. The air grew cooler, and the sound of dripping water echoed through the cavernous space, creating a haunting melody that reverberated off the walls. Shadows danced in the flickering light of our flashlights, and I felt an unsettling sensation creeping up my spine. The walls were slick with moisture, and strange formations jutted out from the rock, resembling twisted figures frozen in time. As we ventured deeper, the darkness enveloped us, and I couldn't shake the feeling that we were not alone. The cave seemed to breathe, its very essence alive with an energy that was both captivating and terrifying. It was during this exploration that we encountered the mysterious old man. He appeared seemingly out of nowhere, emerging from the shadows with an air of quiet authority. His long, gray beard flowed down to his chest, and his eyes sparkled with a wisdom that belied his age. He wore tattered clothing that seemed to blend seamlessly with the cave's surroundings, as if he were a part of the very rock itself. My friends and I exchanged nervous glances, unsure of whether to approach him or retreat. The old man regarded us with a knowing smile, as if he had been expecting our arrival. "Be careful where you tread," he warned, his voice low and gravelly. "These caves hold secrets that are not meant for the faint of heart." His words sent a chill down my spine, and I felt an inexplicable fear wash over me. There was something unsettling about his presence, as if he were a guardian of the cave's mysteries, warning us of the dangers that lay ahead. Despite our initial curiosity, we felt an instinctual urge to leave, to escape the oppressive atmosphere that seemed to thicken around us. As we turned to leave, the old man's gaze bore into me, and I felt a strange connection, as if he could see into the depths of my soul. "Remember," he said, his voice echoing in the cavern, "the darkness can reveal truths you may not be ready to face." With that, he faded back into the shadows, leaving us shaken and bewildered. We hurried out of the cave, the weight of his words lingering in the air like a heavy fog. The experience in the Manson Caves left an indelible mark on my life. The eerie atmosphere, combined with the encounter with the old man, forced me to confront my own fears and insecurities. I found myself reflecting on the nature of darkness, both in the caves and within myself. The old man's warning resonated deeply, prompting me to consider the truths I had been avoiding. It was as if the cave had peeled back the layers of my existence, exposing the raw, vulnerable parts of my being that I had long kept hidden. In the weeks that followed, I began to explore these truths more intentionally. I started journaling my thoughts and feelings, delving into the fears that had held me captive for so long. The experience in the caves had awakened a desire for self-discovery, and I realized that the darkness I had feared could also be a source of strength. I began to embrace the unknown, seeking out new experiences that challenged my comfort zone. The Manson Caves became a metaphor for my journey through life. Just as the caves held secrets and shadows, I learned that my own life was filled with complexities and uncertainties. The encounter with the old man served as a catalyst for change, pushing me to confront the aspects of myself that I had long ignored. I discovered that facing my fears was not only liberating but also transformative. Ultimately, my life-changing experience in the Manson Caves taught me that darkness is not something to be feared but rather embraced as a part of the human experience. The eerie atmosphere and the mysterious old man became symbols of the journey I was on, a journey towards self-acceptance and understanding. I emerged from that cave not just as a person who had explored a physical space, but as someone who had ventured into the depths of their own soul, ready to face whatever truths awaited me in the shadows. In this video, we explored the intriguing realm of personal paranormal experiences, delving into the stories and encounters that many individuals have faced throughout their lives. We began by highlighting the various forms these experiences can take, from ghostly apparitions and shadowy figures to unsettling sensations of being watched. Each narrative shared in the video serves as a reminder that the supernatural often intertwines with our everyday lives, challenging our perceptions of reality and inviting us to question what lies beyond our understanding. One of the key takeaways from our discussion is the importance of acknowledging and validating these experiences. Many people have encountered phenomena that defy explanation, yet they often feel isolated or hesitant to share their stories for fear of being dismissed. By creating a space for these narratives, we encourage viewers to recognize that they are not alone in their encounters with the unknown. The video emphasizes that personal paranormal experiences can be deeply impactful, shaping our beliefs and influencing our understanding of the world around us. We also touched on the emotional and psychological aspects of these encounters. Whether it's the fear associated with sleep paralysis, the comfort derived from the belief in guardian angels, or the unsettling presence of shadow figures, these experiences can evoke a wide range of emotions. It's essential for viewers to reflect on how these encounters have affected their lives, prompting them to consider the connections between their experiences and their beliefs about the supernatural. The video encourages a thoughtful exploration of the unknown, inviting viewers to embrace their curiosity and seek understanding in the face of fear. Throughout the video, we shared personal stories that illustrate the profound impact of paranormal experiences on individuals and families. From childhood encounters with ghostly figures to the lingering effects of living in a haunted space, these narratives serve as a testament to the complexity of the human experience. We invite viewers to reflect on their own stories, encouraging them to consider how their beliefs and experiences shape their understanding of the world. By sharing these narratives, we foster a sense of community among those who have faced similar encounters, creating a space for dialogue and connection. As we conclude our exploration of personal paranormal experiences, we want to emphasize the significance of sharing these stories. Each encounter adds to the rich tapestry of human experience, reminding us that the unknown is a part of our existence. We encourage viewers to engage with their own experiences, whether through journaling, discussing with friends, or sharing their stories in the comments section. By doing so, we can collectively explore the mysteries that lie beyond our comprehension and find comfort in the knowledge that we are not alone in our encounters with the supernatural. If you enjoyed this video and found it thought-provoking, we invite you to subscribe to our channel for more content exploring the realms of the paranormal and the unexplained. Your support helps us continue to create engaging discussions and share stories that resonate with our audience. Don't forget to like the video and share it with friends who may also be interested in the mysteries of the supernatural. Together, we can build a community that embraces curiosity and fosters understanding of the unknown. Thank you for joining us on this journey into the world of personal paranormal experiences. We hope that our discussion has inspired you to reflect on your own beliefs and encounters, encouraging you to explore the depths of your own experiences. Remember, the supernatural is not just a realm of fear. It is also a space of wonder and connection. We look forward to hearing your stories and continuing this exploration together. Until next time, stay curious and keep seeking the truth in the shadows.
One. The cabin in the woods. I had always dreamed of a quiet getaway, so when my friends invited me to a cabin deep in the woods, I jumped at the chance. It was a rustic place, isolated and surrounded by towering pines. As we drove deeper into the forest, the road narrowed and the trees closed in around us, creating an almost claustrophobic atmosphere. The first night was filled with laughter and stories around the fire. We roasted marshmallows and shared urban legends about the area, tales of lost hikers and mysterious disappearances. I chuckled, dismissing them as nothing more than campfire tales. But as the sun set, an unsettling feeling crept in. The wind rustled the branches, and the shadows seemed to dance just out of sight. I decided to turn in early, feeling the weight of the day settle in my bones. My friends stayed up, their laughter fading into the distance as I drifted into an uneasy sleep. Around midnight, I was jolted awake by a loud bang. My heart raced as I listened to the silence enveloping the cabin. I got up, pulling on my jacket, and crept down the hallway toward the source of the noise. The living room was empty, but the front door stood ajar, swaying slightly in the wind. I pushed it closed and locked it, a shiver running down my spine. I decided to check on my friends. As I approached their room, I noticed the door was cracked open. I knocked softly and pushed it open, calling their names. The room was dark, and the beds were empty. "Guys." I called again, panic rising in my throat. There was no response. I turned to head back when I heard a faint whisper behind me. I spun around, but there was no one there. My breath caught in my throat, and I felt a chill creeping along my spine. I ventured outside, hoping to find them by the fire. The night air was thick and heavy, the darkness almost tangible. As I stepped onto the porch, I noticed a figure standing at the edge of the tree line, motionless. My heart raced as I squinted into the darkness, but the figure vanished before my eyes. "Hello," I called, my voice trembling. No answer came, just the rustling of leaves and the distant sound of the wind. I returned inside, locking the door behind me. Anxiety clawed at my chest as I paced the living room, trying to make sense of what was happening. Suddenly, I heard footsteps outside, slow, deliberate. My pulse quickened. I grabbed a flashlight and peered through the window. There, in the beam of light, was a man dressed in tattered clothing, his face obscured by shadows. He stood completely still, staring at the cabin. My instincts screamed at me to hide, but I was rooted in place, terror pinning me down. The man turned suddenly, and I stumbled back, nearly dropping the flashlight. I rushed to the back of the cabin, locking the door and pressing myself against the wall, trying to remain silent. The footsteps grew louder, and I could hear heavy breathing, as if someone was right outside. Then silence. I waited, straining to hear anything over the pounding of my heart. After what felt like an eternity, I dared to peek through the window again. The man was gone. I let out a shaky breath, my mind racing with possibilities. I decided to search for my friends, but as I stepped outside, the darkness felt suffocating. The trees loomed over me, their branches reaching like skeletal fingers. I called out for them, but my voice echoed back, mocking my desperation. As I moved deeper into the woods, the air grew colder. I stumbled upon a clearing, and in the center, there was a small, decrepit cabin, much like the one we were staying in. A feeling of dread washed over me. I stepped closer, compelled by a force I couldn't understand. Suddenly, the door creaked open, and I saw a flicker of light inside. My heart raced as I called out again, "Guys!" "Are you in there?" No answer. With a deep breath, I stepped inside. The interior was dark and musty, filled with old furniture covered in dust. A chill ran down my spine as I scanned the room. Then I saw them, my friends, sitting in a circle, staring blankly ahead. They looked pale, their eyes wide with fear. "Guys, what happened?" I rushed to them, shaking one of my friends. They didn't respond, their expressions frozen in terror. Suddenly, the door slammed shut behind me, and I spun around. The man from before stood in the doorway, his face now illuminated by the faint light. I gasped as I recognized him. He looked like someone from a nightmare, his eyes sunken, his skin pale, and stretched tightly over his bones. "Welcome," he rasped, his voice like gravel. "You shouldn't have come here." I backed away, but there was nowhere to go. The shadows in the corners of the room seemed to grow, twisting and curling toward me. I turned back to my friends, desperate for them to wake up, but they remained unresponsive. The man stepped closer, and I could see the sharpness of his teeth, glinting in the dim light. "You've disturbed something that should remain buried," he hissed. "You've awakened us." Panic surged through me, and I sprinted toward the door, but it wouldn't budge. I banged on it, screaming for help, but the only sound was my own echoing cries. The shadows engulfed me, and I felt cold fingers brush against my skin, pulling me back. In a moment of sheer desperation, I lunged at the man, but he sidestepped effortlessly, a twisted grin spreading across his face. You cannot escape what you've invited. Suddenly, the floor beneath me gave way, and I fell through the darkness. I landed hard on the ground, gasping for breath. I scrambled to my feet, my heart racing. I was outside again, disoriented and alone. I looked around frantically, but the cabin was gone. I stood in the clearing, the air thick with an oppressive silence. The trees loomed over me, and I could feel the weight of unseen eyes watching. With a sense of urgency, I sprinted through the woods, calling out for my friends, but there was no reply. The forest felt like a labyrinth, twisting and turning as I ran, fear pushing me forward. Finally, I burst out onto the road, gasping for breath. I looked back, expecting to see the shadows following, but there was only darkness. I didn't stop running until I reached my car, fumbling for my keys with trembling hands. As I drove away, I glanced in the rearview mirror. For a split second, I saw the man standing at the edge of the woods, his grin wide, eyes glinting with malice. I slammed on the gas, vowing never to return to those cursed woods. To this day, I can't shake the feeling that I'm being watched. I never found my friends, and I often wonder if they're still trapped in that other cabin, lost to the darkness. Each night, when I close my eyes, I hear whispers calling me back. But I know better now. Some places should never be disturbed. 2. The echoes in the walls. When I first moved into my new apartment, I was thrilled. It was an affordable place in a trendy neighborhood with high ceilings and big windows. But as I began to settle in, strange occurrences made me question my choice. It started with the noises. At night, I could hear faint whispers coming from the walls, like distant conversations filtering through the plaster. I thought it was just the old building settling, or maybe the neighbors being loud, but the sounds became more pronounced. It was as if someone was trying to communicate. One evening, I decided to investigate. I pressed my ear against the wall, straining to hear. The whispers grew louder, almost frantic. I could make out snippets of conversation. "Help us. Trapped. Can't escape." A chill ran down my spine. I pulled away, convinced I was imagining things. The next night, the whispers returned, and I couldn't ignore them any longer. I grabbed a flashlight and searched for a way to uncover the source. The apartment was small, and the walls were thin, so I began tapping lightly, listening for hollow spots. As I explored, I found a small, discolored patch on the wall in the bedroom. It looked out of place, almost like a door frame, but without a door. My curiosity piqued. I took a knife and pried at the edges until it cracked open. Dust and debris fell away, revealing a dark cavity inside. I hesitated but felt compelled to look further. I shined my flashlight into the hole, illuminating a small space. To my horror, I saw someone, pinned against the wall, their face twisted in agony. It was a child, no older than 10, with wide, terrified eyes. I stumbled back, gasping. The whispers crescendoed, now urgent and pleading. "Help us, please." I dropped the flashlight, the beam flickering and dying in the darkness. Panic surged through me, and I ran to the front door, my heart racing. I couldn't comprehend what I had just seen. I called 911, my voice shaking as I explained the situation. The operator sounded skeptical but promised to send someone over. While I waited, I tried to calm myself, but the whispers continued, now rising in pitch. I could feel them crawling under my skin, pressing on my mind. Just as I thought I might break, the police arrived. I rushed them to the bedroom, breathless and desperate. "Right here," I exclaimed, pointing to the wall. "There's a child trapped in there." They exchanged skeptical glances, and one officer approached the wall, tapping it lightly. "Ma'am, it's probably just an old building. There's nothing in the walls." But I insisted, and after a few minutes of back and forth, they agreed to help. They pried the wall open further, and I held my breath, praying to find the child still there. The officers exchanged puzzled looks as they revealed the small cavity, but it was empty. "No one's here, ma'am," one of the officers said, sounding disappointed. "Just some old pipes and debris." I felt my stomach drop. No, I saw him, I swear. But my words fell flat. The officers assured me I was just tired, maybe seeing things, and left me alone in the apartment once more. That night, the whispers returned, but they were different now, angrier, more insistent. "Help us! They won't let us go." I pressed my hands to my ears, but it didn't help. The voices invaded my mind, echoing through the room. Desperate, I took a deep breath and went back to the wall. I knew I had to find out the truth. I grabbed the knife again and began to carve deeper into the wall, the whispers growing louder with each slice. I felt a mix of fear and determination. I couldn't leave them trapped like this. As I dug, I unearthed a small wooden box buried behind the drywall. I pulled it out, heart pounding. The box was old, covered in dust and cobwebs, but it felt strangely warm to the touch. The whispers intensified, now screaming for release. I opened the box and gasped. Inside lay a collection of trinkets, dolls, broken toys, and a faded photograph of a family, their faces scratched out. But it was the last item that caught my attention, a locket. I opened it to find a picture of the child I had seen in the wall. Suddenly, the temperature in the room dropped, and the whispers transformed into wails of despair. I felt a cold breeze whip through the apartment, rattling the windows. The walls began to shake, and I realized the voices were no longer just echoes. They were the cries of souls trapped within the building. In a panic, I dropped the box, watching as it shattered on the floor. The contents scattered, and as they touched the ground, I saw shadows begin to rise from the broken toys, forming into ghostly figures. The child I had seen materialized before me, his face etched with fear and sorrow. "Help us," he cried, his voice mingling with the others. I was frozen, overwhelmed by the sight. The other spirits joined him, their expressions pleading, reaching out to me as if I were their only hope. I stumbled back, realizing the box had been their prison. "What do you want me to do?" I shouted, desperation clawing at my throat. The spirits surged toward me, their whispers blending into a cacophony of voices, urging me to listen. "Destroy it. Free us," the child cried, pointing to the box. I grabbed the box and hurled it against the wall, watching as it shattered into pieces. The moment it broke, a blinding light filled the room, and the spirits surged toward it, their anguished faces transforming into expressions of relief. They passed through me, their coldness dissipating as they soared into the light. As the last whisper faded, silence enveloped the apartment. I collapsed to the floor, gasping for breath, tears streaming down my cheeks. I had freed them, but at what cost? The air felt lighter, but the weight of their presence lingered. Days turned into weeks, and I moved out of that apartment, unable to shake the memory of the child and the echoes in the walls. I still wonder if they found peace, if they were finally able to escape the darkness that had held them captive for so long. And every now and then, when the wind rustles the trees outside my new home, I hear faint whispers, reminding me of the night I faced the horrors hidden within the walls. 3. The Haunting of Hollow Creek. The old town of Hollow Creek was known for its picturesque landscapes and quaint homes, but also for its dark history. As a newcomer, I was eager to explore. I rented a small, charming cottage on the outskirts, thinking it would be the perfect escape from my hectic city life. The first few days were peaceful, filled with hiking and photography. But as I settled in, I began to notice strange things. Objects in the house moved when I wasn't looking, books would shift positions, and I'd find my keys in odd places. I brushed it off as my imagination, but unease crept in, especially at night. One evening, I sat on the porch, sipping tea and watching the sun dip below the horizon. As darkness enveloped the landscape, I heard a soft humming, like a lullaby, drifting from the nearby woods. Intrigued, I followed the sound, feeling a strange pull toward the trees. The deeper I went, the more vivid the humming became. It was hauntingly beautiful, echoing through the air like a forgotten memory. Suddenly, I stumbled into a clearing, where an old swing hung from a gnarled tree, swaying gently as if someone had just left it. The humming stopped. I felt a chill run down my spine. Something about the swing felt familiar, almost comforting. I hesitated, but my curiosity won out. I approached and reached out to touch it. As my fingers brushed the wood, I felt a rush of emotions: joy, sadness, longing. I jerked my hand back, shaken. That night, I tossed and turned in bed, the humming replaying in my mind. When I finally fell asleep, I dreamt of a girl in a white dress, swinging on the swing, her laughter mingling with the wind. But the laughter turned into sobs, and I woke up in a cold sweat, heart racing. The next day, I decided to investigate the history of Hollow Creek. I visited the local library and asked about the old swing in the woods. The librarian's face paled, and she hesitated before speaking. That swing belonged to a girl named Clara. She drowned in the creek many years ago. They say her spirit still lingers, searching for something. The weight of her words settled heavily on me. What did she search for? They say she was looking for her mother, the librarian whispered. Clara was playing by the creek when she fell in. Some believe she never left, bound to the place where she lost her life. That night, I found myself unable to resist the call of the woods. I felt a strange connection to Clara, as if she was reaching out to me. I grabbed my flashlight and headed toward the clearing again. The moon illuminated my path, casting eerie shadows among the trees. When I arrived, the swing was still. I stood there for a moment, the air thick with anticipation. Then, out of nowhere, I heard the soft humming once more. My heart raced as I turned to face the sound, but there was nothing in the clearing. "Clara?" I called out, my voice echoing back to me. The humming stopped. Silence enveloped me, and I felt a cold breeze sweep through, sending chills down my spine. Suddenly, the swing began to sway gently. I stepped back, fear gripping me. "I'm here to help you," I said, unsure if I believed my own words. "What do you want?" The air grew colder, and I felt an overwhelming sadness wash over me. The whispers returned, echoing in my mind, "Help me find her." I was struck by a vision. Clara, lost and frightened, her small hands reaching out, pleading for someone to save her. In a burst of determination, I turned and headed toward the creek, knowing I had to find answers. The moonlight guided me as I walked along the bank, the water flowing gently, its surface shimmering under the stars. I followed the creek upstream, searching for anything that might hold the key to Clara's past. As I walked, the air grew heavy with an unshakable sense of dread. The humming returned, now louder and more insistent, pushing me forward. Then I spotted something glinting in the water, a locket. I knelt down, my heart racing as I reached for it. The moment my fingers closed around the cold metal, a rush of memories flooded my mind. I saw Clara's face, her laughter, and then, in a flash, the moment she fell into the water, her mother's desperate cries echoing in the air. I gasped, pulling my hand back, the locket still clutched tightly. "Clara! I found it!" I shouted, feeling the weight of her sorrow pressing down on me. "I'll bring it back." Suddenly, the water surged, and I stumbled back, my heart pounding. The creek began to swirl, and from the depths, a figure emerged. A girl in a white dress, her hair floating around her like seaweed. It was Clara, her eyes wide with fear and longing. "Help me," she whispered, her voice echoing through the night. "Please help me find her." "I will," I cried, clutching the locket. "I promise." But Clara's figure wavered, flickering like a candle in the wind. "You must return it to the swing," she urged. "It's the only way." I nodded, determination fueling my actions. I raced back to the clearing, the locket clutched tightly in my hand. As I reached the swing, Clara's spirit appeared beside me, her face a mix of hope and desperation. I placed the locket on the swing, and the moment I did, a blinding light enveloped us. I shielded my eyes, feeling a warm presence wash over me. The humming returned, now a beautiful melody, filling the air with a sense of peace. Clara's spirit smiled at me, her eyes sparkling. "Thank you," she whispered, her form beginning to fade. "You've set me free." As the light dimmed, I stood in the clearing, the swing swaying gently in the moonlight. I felt an overwhelming sense of calm wash over me. Clara was gone, but the echoes of her laughter lingered in the air. I returned to my cottage, knowing I had helped a lost soul find peace. From that night on, the whispers faded, replaced by a serene silence. Hollow Creek became a sanctuary for me, a place where I could remember Clara and the bond we shared, even if only for a brief moment. 4. The reflection of fear. When I'd first moved into my new apartment, I was excited. It was a steal for the size and location, with large windows and an antique mirror that caught my eye. It hung in the living room, framed in dark wood, and although it was a bit dusty, it added character to the space. The first few days passed in a blur of unpacking and settling in. But then late one night, I glanced into the mirror while brushing my teeth and noticed something strange. The reflection of my living room looked off, as if the colors were muted and the furniture slightly misplaced. I shrugged it off, chalking it up to fatigue. But the next evening, as I was about to head to bed, I caught a flicker of movement in the mirror. I turned quickly, heart racing, but there was nothing behind me. Just my empty apartment. I laughed nervously, convincing myself it was just my imagination playing tricks. Over the following weeks, however, the strange occurrences intensified. I'd often hear faint whispers coming from the mirror, almost like soft conversations. I'd stand in front of it, trying to listen closely, but the words were always indistinct. It became a nightly ritual to check the mirror, the anticipation growing with each passing day. One night, I was unable to sleep. The whispers had turned into a low hum, almost melodic, and it drew me in like a moth to a flame. I found myself standing in front of the mirror, mesmerized. The room behind me darkened, the edges of my vision fading away until the only thing I could see was my reflection. As I gazed into the glass, the hum grew louder, and I saw something shift in the reflection. My own face morphed, twisting into a grotesque version of itself, eyes hollow, mouth stretching into a sinister grin. I stumbled back, terrified, but the reflection remained, its gaze fixed on me. "Let me out," it whispered, a voice echoing from somewhere deep within. I shook my head, backing away, but the reflection reached out, fingers brushing the surface of the glass, creating ripples that danced outward. "Help me," it pleaded, its voice a mixture of desperation and rage. I felt a compulsion to reach out, to touch the mirror, but fear held me back. "I don't understand," I shouted, panic flooding my veins. "What do you want?" The reflection smiled wider, a chilling sight. "You know, you've always known." With that, it seemed to dissolve into darkness, leaving me gasping in confusion and fear. The next day, I decided to do some research about the mirror. I scoured the internet, looking for any clues about its origin. That's when I stumbled upon a forum discussing haunted antiques. One post caught my attention, a tale about a mirror that trapped souls, allowing their darkest fears to manifest within its reflection. A chill ran down my spine. The stories claimed that those who looked too long would lose themselves to the mirror, becoming trapped in its depths forever. I had to act quickly. I couldn't let that happen to me. That night, I gathered my courage and faced the mirror one last time. I was determined to confront whatever was inside. "I'm not afraid of you," I shouted, my voice echoing in the stillness of the room. The reflection warped again, and I could feel the energy pulsing through the air. "You should be," it hissed, the grin stretching wider than humanly possible. "You're already mine." In a moment of clarity, I realized the truth. The reflection was a manifestation of my own fears and insecurities. It fed on my anxiety, growing stronger with every moment I hesitated. I had to break the cycle. "Enough!" I yelled, stepping closer to the mirror. "You don't control me." I reached out and slammed my palm against the glass. The mirror rippled violently, and a surge of energy coursed through me. I felt a wave of darkness trying to pull me in, but I fought against it, focusing on my resolve. "I am not afraid." I shouted again, my voice unwavering. The reflection writhed, screaming as I felt the connection break. With one final push, I smashed the glass with my fist. It shattered, shards flying in every direction, and in that moment, I felt an overwhelming rush of liberation. As the glass splintered, the whispers turned into screams, a cacophony of voices that echoed through the apartment. I stumbled back, shielding my face from the shards, and when the dust settled, the reflection was gone. I stood in silence, breathing heavily, the weight of the mirror's presence lifting. The air felt lighter, and I realized I was free from the burden of my fears. But in the back of my mind, a small voice whispered, reminding me that fear is never truly gone. It can return, lurking just beneath the surface. In the weeks that followed, I replaced the shattered mirror with a simple painting, determined to fill my space with positivity. But every now and then, in quiet moments, I would catch a glimpse of something out of the corner of my eye, a shadow flitting past, a whisper on the wind. I learned to live with it, to acknowledge my fears without letting them consume me. The memory of the mirror stayed with me, a haunting reminder of the darkness that can lie within us all. And though I had escaped its grasp, I knew it was always there, waiting for a moment of weakness to creep back in. 5. The lost photograph. When I inherited my grandmother's old house, I was both excited and apprehensive. It was a creaky, Victorian-style home nestled in the woods, far from the nearest town. I had spent many summers there as a child, but the memories were bittersweet, haunted by the strange stories my grandmother used to tell about the place. After moving in, I began to unpack boxes that had been sealed for years. Among the old books and dusty linens, I found a large, ornate frame without a picture. Curious, I set it aside, wondering if I could find something to fill it. A few days later, while exploring the attic, I stumbled upon a dusty trunk. Inside were photographs from decades past, black and white images of family gatherings, children playing in the yard, and my grandmother smiling brightly. But one photograph caught my eye. It was a faded image of a little girl standing in front of the house, her face partially obscured by shadows. Something about her eyes drew me in. There was a sadness there, a longing that felt almost palpable. I decided to hang the photograph in the empty frame. It felt like a connection to my past, a way to honor my grandmother. That night, I admired the photograph before bed, the little girl's gaze seeming to follow me. As I drifted off to sleep, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off about the picture. Around midnight, I woke to the sound of soft giggles echoing through the house. I sat up in bed, heart racing, and listened closely. The giggles were coming from the hallway, playful and light. I got out of bed and stepped into the dimly lit corridor, the wooden floor creaking beneath my feet. "Hello," I called softly, hoping it was just my imagination. But the laughter continued, beckoning me forward. I followed the sound, drawn by an inexplicable urge. As I approached the living room, I noticed the photograph glowing faintly. The little girl was no longer just an image. She looked alive, her eyes sparkling with mischief. I gasped, stepping back, but I couldn't look away. The laughter grew louder, almost intoxicating. Suddenly, the air around me grew cold, and I felt a presence behind me. I spun around, but the hallway was empty. When I turned back to the photograph, the girl was no longer smiling. Her expression had turned somber. "Help me," she whispered, her voice barely audible. I felt a chill run through me, and my heart raced. "Please find me." "Find you?" I stammered, bewildered. "Where are you?" The photograph rippled as if it were water, and I saw images flash before my eyes. An old, dark room, a small window, and then a glimpse of the little girl crying, her face streaked with tears. My breath quickened as I realized I needed to help her. Determined, I searched the house for clues. I rummaged through the attic again, looking for anything that might lead me to her. Amid the boxes, I found an old diary belonging to my grandmother. The pages were yellowed and crumbling, but as I read, I discovered a disturbing history. The little girl in the photograph was named Lily. She had lived in the house many years ago and had gone missing one stormy night. My grandmother had written about searching for her, but it seemed the search had never ended. The last entry sent chills down my spine. I fear Lily is trapped here, lost between worlds. I couldn't shake the feeling that the little girl was still present, calling out for help. I decided to return to the room where the photograph hung. As I entered, I felt an overwhelming sense of sorrow and desperation. "Lily," I called out, feeling a mix of fear and resolve. "I'm here to help you." The air thickened, and the photograph began to shimmer again. I stepped closer, willing myself to be brave. What do I need to do? The room grew colder, and shadows danced around me. I noticed something on the floor, a small wooden toy, a figure resembling a girl in a dress, similar to Lily's in the photograph. It felt like a sign. I picked it up, and as I did, I heard her voice again. "Find the hidden door," she urged, her voice stronger now. I'm waiting. My heart raced. A hidden door? I recalled the layout of the house. There were rumors of a secret passage, but I had never found one during my childhood explorations. I began searching, feeling the walls for any irregularities. In the study, I found an old bookshelf, its wood warped with age. As I ran my fingers along the spines of the books, one felt slightly different. I pulled it, and the entire shelf creaked open, revealing a narrow staircase leading down into darkness. Gathering my courage, I descended slowly, the air thick with dust and silence. At the bottom, I found a small, dimly lit room. A single window let in a sliver of moonlight, illuminating a small cot and an old trunk. I approached the cot, my heart pounding. On it lay a faded blanket and, to my shock, a small, tattered doll that looked just like Lily. I picked it up, feeling the fabric worn and frayed. It was then that I noticed something carved into the wall beside the cot. Help me find my way home. Tears filled my eyes as I realized this was Lily's room, a place where she had once played and waited for someone to find her. I turned the doll in my hands, feeling an overwhelming sense of sadness wash over me. Lily, I whispered, I'm here. I won't let you be alone anymore. As I spoke, I felt the air shift, a warmth enveloping the room. The whispers returned, now soft and soothing, wrapping around me like a gentle embrace. The shadows began to dissipate, and I felt a presence beside me, comforting and familiar. Thank you, a soft voice murmured. I turned, and there was Lily, her form shimmering in the dim light. You found me. You've set me free. With those words, the room filled with light, and I watched as the darkness faded away. Lily smiled at me, her face radiant, as the space transformed into a warm, inviting room filled with laughter and light. As the vision began to fade, I held the doll tightly, feeling a sense of peace wash over me. I'll remember you, I promised. You'll never be forgotten. The light enveloped me, and when I opened my eyes, I found myself back in the living room, the photograph hanging quietly on the wall, now just a simple image of a smiling girl. In the days that followed, the weight in the house lifted. The whispers subsided, replaced by a comforting silence. I hung the doll in a place of honor in my living room, a reminder of the bond I shared with Lily and the importance of listening to the echoes of the past. Though I still occasionally felt her presence, it was no longer one of despair. It felt like a gentle reminder to cherish memories and honor those who had come before. And as I sat in the quiet of my home, I felt a warmth surround me, knowing that Lily was finally at peace. 6. The last broadcast. It was late September when I stumbled upon the old radio station on the outskirts of town. The place had been abandoned for years, overtaken by weeds and rust. My friends and I often explored forgotten places for kicks, but this one felt different. There was an unsettling aura hanging in the air. Come on, it'll be fun, my friend Jake insisted, waving me over. The others were already inside, laughing and taking pictures. I hesitated, a gnawing feeling in my stomach, but curiosity won out. I followed them in. The interior was just as dilapidated as the exterior, dusty controls, broken equipment, and posters peeling from the walls. We wandered through the rooms, exploring the remnants of a time long gone. In one corner, I spotted an old microphone, its surface tarnished but still oddly captivating. Look at this, I called out to my friends. They gathered around, their flashlights dancing across the room. Bet it still works, Jake teased, picking it up. Let's see if we can get any ghostly transmissions. I rolled my eyes, but a part of me was intrigued. Jake switched on the station's old console, and to our surprise, the lights flickered to life. Static filled the room, crackling like an electric storm. Hello, hello. Is anyone out there? Jake laughed into the microphone, his voice echoing back in a distorted fashion. The static walked his words, and for a moment, it felt like we were tapping into something beyond our reality. As Jake continued to joke around, I felt a shiver run down my spine. There was an odd resonance in the air, a heaviness that seemed to thicken with each passing moment. All right, let's get out of here, I said, but no one seemed to be listening. Suddenly, the static changed. A voice emerged, faint and scratchy, barely audible. Help me, it was a whisper, chilling and desperate. What the hell was that? I asked, my heart racing.